Happy day to all. Today we are going to start the topic of class 10, how do organisms reproduce, part 3. So last class we have seen how the sexual reproduction takes place in plants, and today's class we are going to start how the reproduction process takes place in human beings. So in human, the sexual reproduction is the only mode of reproduction, and both male as well as female, they attain puberty, and that we call it as adolescence. So during the period of adolescence, where the rate of general body growth will slow down and the reproductive tissues starts maturing, and in human male it reaches the puberty at the age of 13 to 14 years, whereas in female it is slightly before, it is in between 11 to 13 years. And what are the changes that takes place during the puberty time? So in males, thick hair growth under the armpit as well as the genital areas, facial hairs, and change in the voice, and occasional penis enlargement. And in females, it is the start of the menstruation cycle. Start at the breast enlargement, hair growth under the armpit as well as the genital areas. First, we will see in human male reproductive system, which comprises of a pair of testes, vas deferens, scrotum, urethra, epididymis, penis, and some of the glands that are related to the male reproductive system. They are the prostate gland, seminal vesicle, and then the corpus glands. Next, we will see what all are the functions. So they have a pair of testes which occur in pairs, and the major function of testes is to produce sperm, and also the hormone, male hormone called as testosterone. So where the testis is placed outside the abdominal cavity, and a covering we call it as the scrotum, where this scrotum skin layer protects the testis, and also when it is placed outside the body abdominal cavity, it can maintain a lower temperature than the body temperature. Next, arising from the testis, we have epididymis, which is a complex tube-like structure which arises from the scrotum part, where it is stored, that is the storage of sperm take place temporarily, and also act as a passage of sperm. And it is these sperms, when it is released, are being carried by a tubular structure. We call it as the vas deferens. So here you can see tubular structure, vas deferens, which emerges out of the lower part of the epididymis, and it opens into the ejaculatory duct. So we will see. So next part we need to explain is the penis, which is a muscular organ, and also it serves as a copulatory organ. And through this, the discharge of sperms, when it gets stimulated, it has been passed out. And the passage through which these sperms from the epididymis, which is connected to the urethra, which is a tube-like structure, and it acts as a common passage for both the sperms as well as the urine to pass through. Now we will see what all are the three glands. Earlier itself we said three glands are related to this. The first one, it is the prostate, gland. So here you can see the prostate gland, which secretes a milky fluid that helps the sperm for motility or mobility. And we have a pair of seminal vesicles, and this also they produce a viscous fluid which will help the sperm mobility when moving through the female tract. The third one is here you can see next to that is the urethra part. We could see the Cowper's gland, which secrete mucus to lubricate the female passage. That is in that is otherwise bulbourethral gland, or the Cowper's gland. That secretion helps the penis to get lubricated. So next we will see how these sperms are produced. And I said it has been formed in the testis, and so from the testis through spermatogenesis process, it is the formation of haploid sperms, where it will be passed on to the epididymis, where it is stored, and from there through vas deferens it covers collecting all the secretions from the seminal vesicles as well as the prostate gland and then the Cowper's gland. It passes through the urethra. So here this is the structure of a human sperm, which consists of the head part, a middle part and a long tail. Tail is being used for the motility or the mobility of the sperm. And at the center or the middle piece we have the spiral shaped mitochondria. And we all know what is the use of mitochondria. It's a powerhouse of the cell, or it provides energy for the movement of the sperm towards the egg or the ova. And the nucleus part is at the head region, and at the tip of the head region there is a thick covering called the acrosome, which helps for piercing through the egg and then finding entry into the egg. So here the same explanation. So even though it is a microscopic in nature, it has got the head part, middle piece and then a long tail that helps the sperm to move forward. And they contain, so the nucleus contains the haploid genetic material. Paternal genetic material is present inside. Next we should pass on to the female reproductive system, which consists of a pair of ovaries. Then from there arises the fallopian tube, which enters into the uterus part, and the mouth of the uterus we call it as the cervix, and then the birth canal or the passage we call it as the vagina. We will see a pair of ovaries on each side of the uterus. So the major function is for the formation of the female sex cells or egg or the ovum or the ova, and also to secrete the female hormones like progesterone as well as estrogen and progesterone. From there arises a tubular structure called fallopian tube, and they too exist in pairs originating from the uterus extending up to the ovary part. And the major function of a fallopian tube is to receive the ovum from the ovary, and also the fertilization takes place inside the fallopian tube. Next, it is a pear-shaped structure, muscular hollow structure called the uterus, where the fetus will be embedded inside this uterus, and then it helps in the development of that fetus. So the mouth of the uterus, we call it as the cervix, which is a narrow lower part of the uterus, and vagina, which is a tubular structure or tube-like structure where sperms are usually discharged in the vagina, and also it acts as a birth canal. So we will see how these female sex cells are being produced. The egg or the ova are being produced by the epithelium of the ovary. So this is the ovary structure where the release of ovum you can see. So maturing of ovum, that is the germinal epithelium, and then after it has been released, what takes place? So here you can see it becomes the Graafian follicle, secondary ovarian follicle forming, and then once the egg or the ovum are being released, it becomes a corpus luteum, which helps in the production of some of the hormones for the formation of the endometrium inside the uterus for supporting the fetal development. So how fertilization takes place? In human beings, the fertilization is internal, and it occurs in the, earlier itself I said, it occurs in the fallopian tube. So here the release of egg or the ovum will take place, and you can see how the egg or the ovum are being fertilized inside the fallopian tube. And the fusion between the sperm and then the ovum, or the nucleus of the sperm as well as the ovum, we call it as fertilization. Fertilization takes place. So we talked now about the fertilization. So what will happen if the egg is not fertilized? So if an egg is released from either of the ovary, so one month will be from one ovary, and it can happen the next month by the next ovary, and by birth the ovarian follicles are developed in females, and only by the maturation or the adolescence it starts developing a mature egg or the ova will be released. But by birth, it has been these Graafian follicle are being formed inside the uterus of an infant baby itself. So once the egg has been released from the ova and it happens to get fertilized, so the embedding and all those processes, that we will come to that. If it is not happening, so what will happen? So from the fallopian tube, the egg moves into the uterus, and by the time we know no such developmental process takes place inside, and the endometrium will be set by the hormones produced by estrogen as well as the progesterone will be supporting the endometrium formation. And if the fertilization does not take place and then the ovum alone is being embedded inside the uterus, the endometrial wall will break, and through the vagina as a bleeding process or menstrual process, it will be sent out. That is, and this is a cyclic process which takes place once in every 28 days. And the unfertilized egg or the ova, or the egg or the ova can stay inside the fallopian tube not more than 24 hours after the ovulation. So ovulation is the process of release of egg or the ova into the fallopian tube, and it can stay in the fallopian tube for another 24 hours, and by that time the fertilization should take place. Otherwise, so this will be expelled out as a menstrual cycle. So we will see how the menstrual cycle takes place. It is a cyclic process. Every 28 days, just now I said. So the So the bleeding through the vagina is due to the breakage of the endometrium, and we term it as menstruation. And it occurs every 28 days, and it can last for another 2 to 6 days, the bleeding process. And how or when it occurs. So 14 days of formation of egg, mature egg or the ova, which get released into the fallopian tube, and within the next 14 days, the process of menstruation will start. That is, for 14 days post ovulation, the menstruation will start. And no, that is a stage where the a female become adolescent. That is during the adolescent age, we call it as where they start the menstruation process. We call it as menarche, and there is a time limit for the egg or the ova, mature ova release that takes place, and we call it as the menopause time, and it will be between 45 to 55 years of age. And during that time, what will happen? No ovulation, so no menstruation will happen. So next it is the reproductive health. So like the normal health condition, or when we talk about health, we know we call it as a state of complete physical, mental, as well as the social well-being in all aspect of reproduction. So here the reproductive health is a complete physical, mental, as well as the social well-being based on the reproduction, and the knowledge of reproductive processes and organs, care of mother and child comes under this. And for that, we know there are certain precautionary measures need to be taken from the government side as well as from the couple side, and that is nothing but the family planning. And also in this we are going to see some of the knowledge on STDs, that is sexually transmitted diseases. So care of mother and child. So proper nutritious diet to a pregnant woman as well as a lactating mother is a must. And a proper age difference between the children, two kids. So for that, planning need to be done now. And also a proper planning for a right age of a mother, it is between 20 to 35 years to get a healthy mother. And uh, we need to avoid restrict number of children, not to add to the overpopulation, and avoid unwanted pregnancies. So for that, we have the family planning. Why is it necessary? As we know, it limits the huge increase in the population, and how it has been done. So we can maintain proper age gap between the children, and the control of number of children in a family is a one or two depending upon the family's income. And we know there should not be any gender bias activities are taking place, no differentiation between a male child and a female child. And the parents, they should plan a baby at their right age that will support the baby to grow in a healthy manner. How can we avoid pregnancy? So avoiding pregnancy, we have certain techniques, and we call it as a contraception. And there are different ways of contraception. That is, any barriers to be physical barriers can be used. They are nothing but condoms, which here you can see the image of condoms. They are balloon-like elastic covering that fit over the penis, as well as for females, cups are available. Condom cups are available, and which get collected. That is, the sperms will get collected one during the sexual act. So next, it is a biochemical method or oral contraceptive pills, where it prevents the ovulation process, as well as that is, it will not allow a free movement of sperm through the uterus to reach the fallopian tube. And the permanent method, it is the surgical method, where the removal of a part of vas deferens. So here you can see the image. So cutting a, a part of the vas deferens will lead to the term vasectomy, and for females, disconnection in the fallopian tube will result in the tubectomy, which is a permanent solution. So we have seen all this, and now we should know what are STDs, or sexually transmitted diseases. Some of the bacterial, if we are not maintaining hygiene during the sexual process, it can lead to some diseases, STDs, which are being caused by bacterial as well as viral infections. And some of the sexually transmitted diseases, they are gonorrhea, syphilis, which are bacterial infection, and the third one, HIV or AIDS, they are virus, human immunodeficiency virus. And some of the other, it is the genital as well as the anal warts. And how can we prevent these STDs? So using condoms, we can prevent the direct contact of the sexual organs. And if such a thing happens, you can wash before as well as after the sexual act, and also towards a new partner, checking HIV before the sexual act is another prevention method. Thank you, children.